Everybody has a song like that, I think. Not everybody. A lot of people.
I think most people do. You have the go-to that just takes over.
Yeah.
It's bad when it's Rebecca Black's Friday. It changes from time to time.
The super inspiring song, or the one that comes to mind when
just when you're when you're exercising or running or doing something, or even playing sports. It always used to be football. I'd always just have something in my head.
Yeah, the Rocky one's pretty popular, right?
Yeah.
It was like one of those first ones that popped up in movies. I can't really think of any other ones off the top of my head.
Trying to think of the most epic songs.
It's hard to force something that happens randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I've been playing a lot lately? I literally have been playing Dario's album while I run.
Watermarks?
So Watermarks, but then the Tetris theme song when I'm lifting heavy. It's awesome. That's what I need to work out. It's inspiring.
You should check out some of the super effects stuff
Well,
too.
that is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the
Nice.
Tetris one, and there's the Halo theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listened to a little bit of that as well, actually.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Now I want to. We have to go to the Pyramid Cabaret or whatever when he's playing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I'm down. That's in August, I think, right? You said?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm just gonna do a quick sync here, and then we're good to go. So 3, 2, 1.
One clap,
One clap.
just like in the football days.
And now we're on?
We're on. We're live.
Just after one clap.
Yeah.
One clap. That's how it happens.
It's like those lights. You record. If I clap again, I'll stop recording, so I can't do it.
Ah, I see.
Magic genies. So you got to clap once, you're on, and then clap again, it's off. That's it.
Yeah, that's all.
Can't do it again. So nobody get excited about anything because you might end up
No
turning this
applause,
off.
please.
Turn the
Hold the
podcast.
applause.
Hold the applause. We should have a light for that somewhere. Hold the applause.
That was the one thing I noticed you were missing, was an applause light.
Well, we have inspirational
thing.
quotes on the wall. Well, we had the TV. We haven't used it that much yet. We thought of putting the notes up there, but
Yeah, it just doesn't show on camera, and it kind of blows out the picture a bit. So,
well, here we are
Here we are.
with Brent Biglow.
Hi.
Hi. So, a little bit of your backstory. You've been making things with wood, creative projects, nearly in your entire life. You had a small workshop in your parents' basement and at the cabin where you had free range to be ambitious and creative with projects. You attended the U of M for environmental design with interest in architecture for 3 semesters, spent a year in a carpenter apprenticeship, then decided on U of W for business, only to realize a calling for entrepreneurship and that continuing school would be a waste of time and money. Started Biglow Woodcraft with a friend, but decided to part ways and build own company, now Biglow Woodcraft. Now operate out of a workshop in the Exchange focusing on design-forward furniture products, art, and custom work, and undergoing a small pivot and building the business. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
all right,
I'll
we know
hold to
everything. Thanks for coming
Yeah,
on.
that's
We'll
it.
see. Hopefully
That's
we'll
it.
have you on again.
That's the list right there.
that. Wow, that was so much easier than I was expecting.
Exactly. Well, glad you enjoyed it. So how would you describe yourself to someone you just met, Brent?
Oh, goodness. Late. And
You were very on time / early today. Jayse was the
Yeah,
late
you made
one,
me
so-
look bad.
new year, new me. I'm trying to fix that, but I'm late, creative, and I don't know. I didn't prepare for this first question. I prepared for the rest.
Late and creative. It seems that they go hand in hand a little bit, though. You have people that there's the creative types that kind of go by their own. I'm trying to think, like fly by the seat of their own pants is kind of the thing. So you just end up, maybe it's you get completely involved in a project and you don't think of time, and all of a sudden you're late for dinner or whatever it is. So it just seems that seems to be something that's intrinsically you.
Yeah, I think that I really believe that motivation comes in waves, and you need to ride those waves like crazy. And when there isn't one, that's okay, because there's going to be another one at some point soon. So yeah, that's often how I operate. I'll work, close to 70 hours one week, and then I'll fall down to 35 the next week. And I don't know.
That's something that I've said before. It's a little bit of that momentum. Once you sink into a project, it almost becomes natural that you want to spend time in it. And then all of a sudden it hits that point maybe where it's almost done or you're finished. And then it's just that you have to build up again. And sometimes you need that. I even found that this weekend where Friday night, Saturday morning, I just wasn't able to accomplish anything because I just didn't have that drive to do it. I had, after I finished, I did my first run, lift, shoot day, which I ran 10 miles.
I saw that.
Did a prison arms workout.
What time were you up that morning?
I was up at 4:30 a.m. I do that at least.
Crazy.
When I go for runs, I do that in the morning. The other days, I usually get up at 5, sometimes a little bit after, so I can hop on the bus and work out at the old Good Life downtown here. It's good times. But yes, so I did a prison arms workout, which is, it should be trademarked from my old gym. I'll give him a shout out, McDole's. And then I shot archery that night. So it was a full day of activities.
Wow.
And then watched a little bit of the Jets game, but I just couldn't motivate myself to do anything. And then the next morning I was like, I'm gonna hang out in my house coat and make some breakfast, and that's pretty much it. But then it was that lunchtime hit, and I went, I can't waste any more time. It's time to actually go do something. So I ended up going to the local coffee shop and just working on my laptop and getting some things done. So it's that all of a sudden sometimes you need to kick yourself in the butt and just get back to whatever you need to be doing, because you don't want that. I always keep lists, but you don't want that list to stack up or put things off unnecessarily.
Yeah, I like to write down every single thing that I need to do on a Post-it. So each Post-it is one singular item, and I just cover my desk in all of these to-dos. And then as I finish them, I just remove the Post-its. But I find it's like a good visual representation of everything I need to get done, because my desk will get quite cluttered with Post-its. And so then I can kind of just examine all of them by looking down and seeing, okay, that one's really easy. I'm just gonna knock that out real quick, and then it starts to build momentum, and I can motivate myself to bring that.
I like that
to the rest of the projects.
Very classic way of doing it, old school way. I keep all my notes on my computer now, but I like the physical representation in real life. Like we talked about this before too. Writing something down makes it real, right? So even if it's something tiny that you have to do, getting it out of the way, that's one less thing off your agenda for the day.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said about putting all of your thoughts, ideas, calendar entries, conversations, everything into one singular device in your pocket. Like there isn't any like reality to those items because they just have all gone into this one thing. Whereas if you had a day planner and a bunch of Post-its and you had a notebook and all these things, it's like that's where those things are and that's where these things are, rather than constraining them all to this one thing that you end up ignoring.
That's true. I mean, that's why I bought this thing that's acting as my my glass holder right now. I bought it to do.
Everybody's using a different notebook for holding glass.
But more importantly, I like to have things like physically too. And so I bought this, and it cost me, I think, like $30. It's like a moleskin, so it's actually like a really good agenda, and I still have not written a single thing in it.
Oh, come on.
Well, I think there's a feeling of like tainting it. It's like you got this really nice book
that
so
my
you have to
glasses on top of
thing.
It is funny because I find with my notebook that there's only certain things that I'll put in it. It is my productivity, it's my thoughts, it's my ideas. So yeah, don't steal it, please. But but yes, it's everything that I think is necessary to put in there. But if it's just a random note or somebody wants me to do something, like it has to be for what I want to accomplish as opposed to just random things. Like I'm trying to have an example but it was the hardest thing. I was talking taxes with my dad, and then he gave me this thing and wrote in there, and I went, I don't really want this to be in here, but it is probably important that I know. So that one had to buy, but that's the one thing, the one time where something other than thoughts, ideas, or checklists, whatever it is, productivity hasn't went in there. So yeah, that's my productivity tidbit.
I don't know. Yeah, I think a little bit is like maybe I should have got a cheaper one that I wouldn't care as much about.
Yeah.
And I think part of it too is just like if I write it down, it becomes permanent in there. And I think I've become so accustomed to using a computer system like Google Calendar for planning out my days, and it's so much easier that if I put something in the wrong slot, I can just move it. Here I have to like use whiteout or something, and I feel like I'm ruining the book if I'm like scratching it out or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that important. I find I can never use a laptop, or I like the sticky notes idea because it's something visual. How do you prioritize with that though?
Sometimes I definitely like I'll make a section on my desk like quotes that I need to do for clients, and then I'll make a section like kind of mundane, just organizational things I want to do, or I don't know, just easier things. Then I'll have a section that's actual projects that I have deposits for, and obviously I can't do those at my desk, but they still need to be on the desk because there's something I need to do, and that's what they all are. So, but then other times I just have maybe 20 of them, and they're all over the place, and I can work through it in an organic way, and just I don't know. I don't want to make it seem like this Post-it thing is this innovative.
It's a creative
solution.
way.
It's just the way, I don't know. It
It
makes
works
sense
for
to
you, right?
throw it all down on my desk and then see, I gotta start getting rid of these because this is clutter.
But it is interesting to think that there are a lot of different ways that you can measure what you need to do and be productive. And it doesn't matter as long as, and I think as long as it's written down, as long as you know what you need to do and you have some kind of maybe priority-wise organization from it, then you're more likely to actually do those things. I know in the past when I wasn't as focused on what I had to do or what I had to accomplish, it becomes more disarray, and then really maybe the only things you get done are the very important things, and you let everything else slide. And so when you then start to focus on productivity, it becomes that much more important to just stay on top of things too.
I would say one of the biggest struggles for me starting this business was letting those like less prioritized tasks fall under and just get forgotten about. In the first year, like if I was even now still, if I was building something for a friend or a family member, it's easy to expect that they understand that I'm busy, and so I let that project kind of fall behind a bit because I'm busy and I have all this other stuff. But I'm really trying to change my thinking on that because every task should be just as important. It's still customers, and in some ways, my most important customers are my friends and family.
Well, they already have that loyalty built up, and they believe in you and your talents and are likely to invest multiple times in different products or things that you're doing, right? So
yeah, I think the prioritization for me lately has just been everything is a priority. And I try not actually, I didn't have this thought until now, but I don't really see anything as more important than another thing. Like maybe my principles and like what's going on in my life other than work, there's priorities there. But in terms of tasks that need to be done for the business, I definitely see it now as just everything needs to get done at some point.
How do you order it then? Is it like first come, first serve? Is it in order of priority for that client or customer?
It's again something that's kind of ambiguous, and in some cases there's a definite schedule that I try to stick to. When somebody first contacts me, I sort of take a bird's eye view of all my projects and where I'm at, and I'm maybe booking 4 or 6 weeks ahead. So I let them know that. And then at the time that at the bottom of my quote that I send a client, it says a deposit of whatever is required to schedule and start your project. And so after that deposit is paid, then I give them a start date. And then I basically try to make sure I have all the other major projects done by that start date.
Is that deposit, is that just to protect you as a business?
Yeah. Most of the things I do, the material cost is 30%, and the labor and the business itself is the other 70. And so I take out around 50% so I can buy materials without having to fork anything over, and then I have a little bit of play.
you can eat.
so I can eat.
So I can survive.
It's an important part of job, is being able to eat.
Well, actually, it is something that I learned from my father through just talking about business. But he said one of the things that people don't think of, they think of all the business costs of starting up and what kind of materials, depending on the business, right? But it could be anything. But they think of all those costs, but they don't really think of, well, I need a roof over my head and food in the fridge, and I need to be able to provide and at least live the lifestyle that's sustainable for you. So that needs to be part of that focus. And so it doesn't seem far-fetched to be like, okay, I need half to make sure that this is worthwhile for me to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually run into a fair bit. No, I wouldn't say a fair bit, but every once in a while I run into somebody who expects that my hourly rate would be what just a laborer would make. It's like a laborer might make like $18 an hour is a pretty decent wage for somebody at this stage in their life. And so it's like, why isn't his rate $18 an hour? Well, I have a lot of tools that I use, and I have business expenses. I have like all kinds of little costs that I personally never saw coming. And so I need to bill for that, and I need to bill for myself as well.
Yeah.
Do most customers understand that, or is there kind of like an expectation from people because like, oh, I can go get this done somewhere else because they'll charge cheaper per hour, but then it's like, well, you're not getting the same quality of service, right?
Yeah. I would say lately I've been getting away from not like a conscious effort to get away from these people, but it just naturally has happened that I'm getting less tire kickers who are just trying to find a woodworker to do something for them. And I'm getting more people that already know my business because they had a friend that had this thing made or something. And so they already are fairly aware of how I might operate, it seems, at least. So that's been really great. And I don't really have any conversations anymore describing why my hourly rate is what it is.
Yeah.
I usually just tell people, and that's the end of it. So that's been really nice, actually.
That's awesome.
It must be nice to be at that point where you're developed enough that you have a reputation, but they also know the quality of product that you're making, and they know the expectations going in. Because I think that is a difficult part of being a startup or being in those early stages, is just people don't necessarily know what you're about, know what your work skills are like. It just is hard to have proof of concept before you have proof of concept.
Exactly.
And then, but to actually have that, you need customers and you need to build. So it is that process. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm trying to think of a time where I've built something. I guess this in itself, but in a little bit of a different way. But I guess it is similar because we're trying to build audience. We're trying to have listeners. We're trying to have people that are interested in our content. And once you have that, and you have the people that believe in whatever it is that you're doing, or in our case, whatever you're saying, then it just becomes, you're on that same playing field. They know what to expect from you. You start to attract more like-minded people into that, and then it just becomes a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of parallels between this podcast that you are 7 weeks into. Are you doing it weekly?
We're
mostly, yeah. We've been weekly except for 1
been,
week, I think, and that was Easter weekend. We didn't record.
Yeah,
So
maybe
you're
with
about
Mother's
2 months
Day.
into this then.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like you're at the very beginning of something, but you have such a clear sense of principle that following will develop naturally, I think, because you have a goal in mind and you're being consistent. And initially it's really tough to find that audience, but it's not like, I think when I first started, I didn't see it coming. Like, I didn't see the difficulty initially really coming. I already had people who wanted things from me, and then I fulfilled those things, and it was like, okay, where's the next people that want things from me? So then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to give really great deals and, like, I don't know, not make much money for a while, basically, to make sure I'm getting people in the door, because I didn't have that reputation to prove what I was capable of. So I just had to basically offer things for low costs, and then overwhelm myself with the finer details and like produce a product that was worth 3 times what I got. And it paid off because I was able to get all those high-end products out there and build a name for myself. I don't know.
It's funny to be just, I think I've said it before, but just living on the edge of just everything. You see, you're starting something new. You want to be able to be successful, but you want more customers. So it's looking over the edge and going, this might be oblivion on the other side. I might fall flat on my face, but you keep developing, you keep building, you keep striving, and then all of a sudden people gravitate towards it. And then before you know it, it starts to become that much more successful. And then you can ask fair price and you can actually build the business in a sustainable manner. But usually that beginning part is the most chaotic.
Well, it's also that risk reward system too, right? Like you're doing something that you're not really getting anything out of besides showing people what you can do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of wanted to transition into like how you kind of got into it in the first place. Like how long have you been doing it, and what kind of tempted you to get into woodworking?
So as Riley sort of went through at the beginning, I went to University of Manitoba for environmental design right out of high school. Didn't really stick. Then I was a carpenter's apprentice for a year, and that I enjoyed a lot more. I liked building things. I've always built things, and I think like I just have always built things, but I never really considered until a certain time that I should just build things for other people. I was always building things for myself, and then after floating around, going to university a second time at U of W for business, and again feeling like that didn't really stick. Sitting in these courses, learning about entrepreneurs and all their traits of, being creative and late, just thinking, well, all right, I'm going to try something, I think. And my friend and ex-business partner, Jeremy, he and I just were like, let's do it. Let's get a deck to build for somebody. And we found somebody who wanted us to build them a deck. And so we did that. And we registered a name with the government and did all the stuff. And then 9 months later, we'd built a bunch of decks and done some renovations. And it just naturally grew from there. And I had always been more interested in the furniture and the smaller products and just finer woodworking. But like that, I guess I haven't really thought about this, but that was the hardest thing to really get away from the renovations and into the finer woodworking. You can't just be a fine woodworker, like you have to learn the tools and learn how all that works and have people to pay you to do it. And finding those people along the way was initially very tough. I think an important thing that I did was I would always be looking for projects that I didn't quite know how to do yet, but I wanted to learn. And so if I could find somebody who would want me to build them something that I had never built before, then it's perfect. I get money to teach myself how to build something. And so I just did that for a long time. And now I look back on it, it's like I learned so much of my skills by having people pay me to do it. Not very much, but pay me something.
Sorry, go ahead, Riley.
No, I lost it.
Okay. Was there ever like a sense of fear instilled with that, or anxiety in terms of someone giving you this kind of tall order and be like, oh no, I got to build this now and I don't have no idea how to go about it?
Absolutely. There have been so many long days and nights where I'm halfway through a project and I'm just like sweating bullets, like fearful that this is not going to turn out, and I should have never taken a deposit from this person. I should have never promised that I could build this thing. And then I just kind of powered through it because I put myself in the position where I had to. And I would never allow myself to call them and be like, hey, sorry, I'm going to send you your money back. Like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
I've always been a problem solver. So if I'm going to sweat bullets and worry that this thing I'm currently trying to do isn't going to work out, then I'm naturally just going to find the solutions to those problems. And at the end of the day, like, there's definitely a handful of projects out in the wild that I'm not happy with, but they're still pretty good. So that's all right.
I think that says a lot about you and your character as well. And to take something and just overcome, because it's an obstacle, right? You're overcoming an obstacle is essentially what you're doing, and teaching yourself along the way. And that's hugely important, especially, and it obviously you love doing what you do, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it, right? And teaching yourself. Is the tool set, so you went from building like essentially big projects like decks and renovations into kind of smaller woodworking and furniture. Is there like a big difference in terms of like tool sets that they use for those two different jobs?
Yeah, there is. So I guess I'd like to get into how.
Sorry to interrupt. I would just get you to speak like closer to the mic. You keep.
Are we
raising.
recording this?
Yeah.
Oh,
This crazy thing.
Oh, we're
sorry.
recording now?
No, this is just the conversation leading up. That way you don't have to worry about it.
All good.
So when we were doing decks and renovations, we were Jeremy and I, Biglow Woodcraft, and we were working out of his garage, and we were often working on site at the deck or the renovation. And there's, I don't know if you want me to list off a bunch of tools or not, but like a truck full of power tools that you bring into a house or a backyard and you work. And then as I started getting more interested in furniture, like a lot of those tools are the same in that you can use them on smaller, finer things, but you just have to, like, you can't do everything. You're very limited. And so we slowly, like, we got a nice table saw that we restored, and we got like a big desktop sander. But then after we split and I was still working out of the garage, I went and met with an upholsterer to potentially collaborate on some outdoor furniture. And we ended up chatting for a good 2 hours, I feel like. And at some point along the way, he was like, I have space here and like a wood shop that doesn't get used too much. Why don't you just rent from me? And that naturally made sense. It was a little bit sooner than I wanted to move to a new space, but I had to bite the bullet and do it. And that just opened up so many doors because he had a jointer and a planer. Well, actually, we did have a planer, but I was able to sell a bunch of tools and get a little bit of cash and just use his tools. And he had pretty much everything that you need for fine woodworking, including this German joinery tool called a domino. It's very expensive, and I wouldn't be able to afford one for some time. But there's just tons of tools there that I suddenly had access to, and I've been there 2 years now, and it's just like such a blessing to have that just kind of fall into my lap.
So amazing how opportunities present themselves when they seemingly need to. I mean, you weren't quite ready for a space, but you had that conversation, and all of a sudden things just manifested, and you were able to make that jump. And all of a sudden, it was exactly what you needed at the right time.
Yeah.
Maybe in reflection. One of the cool things, I mean, I've known you since we were 5, 6, maybe even since we were born. Really,
I assume we knew each other then, but
yeah,
like,
I don't
do you
really
know somebody.
My memory isn't that great to begin with, but my childhood memories. I remember chanting Osgood at the Jets game, but that was in '95. So, and I remember crying my eyes out the first day of elementary school. But anyways, I digress. But I feel that you've been creative absolutely your entire life, and it's funny because I like to think of myself as a creative person, but I would say our creativities are on complete different spectrums. You were always able to build, whether it was, I think, a bike ramp or skateboard ramp, and I never even would think to attempt something like that. And then even on a little bit on the computer programming development side, I just know that you've always been interested in that, but also you've been creative and been able to make things happen with computers or with technology that I had no clue about either. So maybe how did that develop, and how has that led to where you are today?
Um, I think an important part of that is that my parents, like I was the second child of two, and so the first child, they not
They always
care
mess
more
up.
about, but they're just like maybe more restrictive and like they want to do it right. And then with me, they were just like, he's probably gonna be fine. So so they just allowed me to do whatever, and I just always had an interest in finding out how things worked and like thinking I could do that or I could do that better even. And like seeing like small digression about the skate park, the skateboard ramps and stuff. I built a full suite of skate park materials and we'd drag it out onto my cove and we'd skateboard like every day, every summer. I had a big quarter pipe and like kickers and fun boxes, and it was ridiculous. I don't know how we got all the money for all that plywood, but
it was there apparently.
Yeah, I think like my parents were just always super supportive and just allowed me to build and do whatever I thought I should try to build and do.
That support is so underappreciated often, and I think it's around this point. I know it's in my life lately. I look back at all the times where my parents just went, "All right, this is what you want to do. Go do it," and have been completely supportive. And whether it was football career and helping me with getting trainers or whatever it is, and supporting what I wanted to accomplish. Because my goal, at least in the first quarter of my life or quarter century of my life, after the hockey dream dies out, because it hits that point sometimes in Canada where you just go, oh, I'm not going to be 6 foot tall and I haven't made it to the WHL or anything. But
wish you were a little bit taller.
I wish I was a baller. I wish I had 20-inch blades on the Impala. No, but it was around 13. I tried football when I was 7 or 8. I literally tried every sport growing up. It wasn't until, and then I quit football actually.
I also tried every sport growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 13 I came back to football. But then just the love developed from there. And then it was those points of how can I get better? And in high school, there was always players better than me. So it was cool to have that support. And it's so important to just, it's now being in the place where I am now is being grateful for my parents through that. You hit the late teens, early 20s, and you go, I just want to drink and party, and it's all about me. And I don't want my parents for anything. I want to be independent. I want to live my own life, and I want to do my own things. And then all of a sudden, it hits this point where you come full circle, and you go, "Wow, I was kind of a dick because I should be more grateful for the opportunities that they presented to me, and all the things that they sacrificed, and all the things that they did for me."
I think we all go through that phase though of rebellion and like, I hate you, Mom. I hate you, Dad, and then.
Yeah,
a few years later, you're very grateful for everything they've done, and you're able to see that.
I think in terms of developing at that stage, you suddenly gain independence, and you just want nothing but independence.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm me now, and I want to be whatever I want to be. And anybody getting in your way between, I don't know, 15 and 20, like you're saying, is just like, doesn't even matter. You don't care. You suddenly can be whatever you want because you can leave the house and not tell anybody where you're going, and then
they worry about you and they call a bunch of times, but you don't answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I found mine was a little bit later. It was probably more 18 to 22, like a little bit the tail end of high school into early university, where I truly found that I wanted my independence. And even after that, it was, I wanted to move out. I wanted to progress in my life, but I was in school. It eventually happened, but it's, I think you have to push yourself. It's the symbolic cutting of the umbilical cord one more time, because you really have to, and I find there's people that I know that still haven't completely done that. And I go, well, in some ways, maybe they are further along in life because they've been able to save money or whatever it is. But I feel that I wouldn't change the experience that I've had through just being like, okay, I'm my own person. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to move out. I'm going to try and make this work. But it's nice that they're still supportive through that. And anytime I've fallen, that they've helped me back up. So it's it's great to have that, because I know that that's not a global, or that's not everybody that has that opportunity or has that kind of support from their families.
Everyone has their own experience, but like I feel like mine's similar to yours, Riley, where it's, well, I got kicked out when I was 19. And it wasn't until then that I realized, I'm like, wow, this is hard. You have to pay bills. You have to make your own food. You have to do your own laundry. I'm like, I miss living at home. But I'm like, my mom, she still helps me out to this day. I go visit her every week. She sends me home with food. And I couldn't be more grateful for it. So, and I'm grateful for everything she's done for me growing up. And I think through the years, I must have been around 16 to 20. I didn't realize that until after I got kicked out. And realized, I'm like, wow, I need to find a job. I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. I need to pay bills. I need to make food. I need to survive, right?
Yeah,
like,
life is expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Life is,
and it's only getting more expensive.
Yeah,
it's
truly.
Yeah, the price of. I think it's a story that my parents told once, but somebody, I think it was one of my brother's friends, moved home for the first time because of the price of toilet paper. Was just too much. Do you realize how expensive this is?
That's when you start stealing it from work, and
yeah, it's a slippery slope then. On a completely different note, so you talked a little bit about the entrepreneurial.
Wait, can I say one thing?
Oh, 100%.
I gotta say this. One time when I was like maybe 14, me and my family was going to Fernie, and your brother was living there.
Yeah,
and you guys weren't going to Fernie that year, and your mom sent the perfect like box with us to deliver to Joel, and it was just like toilet paper, and I don't even remember what else, but I know there was toilet paper in there, and it was just like
probably cookies and a letter and some money and some
it was awesome.
My thoughts of, now that you bring up Fernie, was my family, it's about a 16 and a half hour drive, and every year we would set out with candy salad. So it would be a full Tupperware tub of candy salad. It would be chocolate. It would be worms. It would be gummy bears, anything that you could think, fuzzy peaches. And yet somehow it wasn't super unhealthy because it was salad. Yeah. And I do remember watching a full season or two of the OC with my sister on those trips too. But yeah.
What's with our mums and candy salad?
I think it's just that our parents are friends, so that friend group, I think they like to enable the candy eating or something.
I've never heard candy salad before.
I don't think, I think for good reason, and this might just be a certain sect of the city that does.
Anytime we were going anywhere in the car or whatever, my mom would have the Tupperware full of candy that she'd pick through at the bulk section, and it's candy salad.
Candy salad.
Salad. It's healthy carbs.
It's healthy for you. God. I actually saw something like that on the internet that was like, you should eat gummy worms as opposed to peanuts because it has less calories. And I went, no, you really shouldn't. It's all sugar.
Carbs.
Yeah, it's all sugar and carbs and awful chemicals in there. And then you got a peanut, and they're like, don't eat the peanut.
Of course, nuts have more calories in it. Fat's more calorie dense.
Yeah,
candy.
We're starting to learn a little bit more about nutrition.
Yeah, it's come a long ways.
Don't eat the candy worms unless you absolutely have to, or if it's part of candy salad.
Right.
That's the takeaway from this.
Yeah.
What I was initially saying was, you talked a little bit about the entrepreneurial mindset and how you identified with it. Is there any specific entrepreneur that really spoke to you or really inspired you, or even any artist or writer?
I would say that there are just a ton of artists, writers, entrepreneurs that have all sort of spoken to me on different levels. I don't have like one or two or even three just like shining examples of my inspiration. But like I listen to design podcasts and I watch woodworkers on YouTube like crazy. And I recently have been reading a lot, which I definitely stopped doing for a long time. But now I've picked it back up, and I don't know. I guess I could name a few. Like there's this podcast called Design Matters with Debbie Millman, and she has been interviewing people in some sort of creative position for like a very long time. I don't know, 14 years or something. And every episode, she just finds somebody from some different creative space, and she has a really great conversation with them. At the beginning or end of each episode, she says, "And remember, we can talk about making a difference, we can make a difference, or we can do both." And I think that's just
Awesome. I like that saying.
That's kind of funny because I feel that that directly correlates with what we're hoping to accomplish
Yeah.
with this is
Yeah.
literally calling ourselves Be the Change. It to me means you can't simply just talk about it
Yeah.
because it wouldn't be real. You're talking about making a change, which is easy to do. You're not walking the walk. You're not actually doing it. And so that's the other side of this is actually going out into the community, making a difference, and even having the discussion groups with small groups of young professionals, but just talking about our experiences, what we've been through. And there's something really bonding about that because everybody's seen that success, failure, and if you're willing to spend the time talking about it, it means you want to improve and you want to get somewhere maybe better than you currently are. So it's nice to just have that solidarity of there are other people going through maybe not the exact same experience, but a similar experience. And there's so much you can learn from. It doesn't matter if you're in the exact same realm or you're in the same industry. You can learn from other people's experiences kind of through everything that they've been through.
Yeah. I think finding that connection with as many people as you can is super important because, like, at the end of the day, my job is very hard some days, and I have the odd breakdown where it's just like, I don't know if I should do this. But then you have the days that are amazing, and it's like, this is the best possible life that I could be living right now, and this is amazing. But to get you through some of those hard times, it's like, it's nice to know that other people doing similar things are feeling the same things, and it's just important that we all have these kind of conversations and get on par with each other and realize that we're not in this alone, even though it feels like if you're working for yourself, you literally are in it alone. But everybody else working for themselves has different perspectives on how they champion different struggles, and sinking your teeth into those conversations and finding out, yeah, all that stuff is important.
Is it really hard to stay motivated being it's just you in the workshop? Like, are there ever those moments where it's hard to just be one person running the business?
Yeah, it's easy to get bogged down thinking about other things that are just like mundane. Like I get a thing in the mail from the CRA saying that I'm a week behind on a GST payment. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. It's like a small little task that I just need to deal with. But like, there's a million of those. And when I start thinking about one, I start thinking about 10 and 100. And it's like, I really just need to mill this wood so that I can sand it and start putting together this piece. But instead, I'm thinking about these million little things that I have to do.
That makes sense. The feeling of being pulled a million different directions at once and really wanting to focus on the product. Like you want to be focused on the business and actually accomplishing those things. But there's all the other things surrounding it that you need before you can ever actually focus on that project. So
yeah, that's been another struggle, is finding the time to just process all of those little things and trying to sort of section off my schedule. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna spend all day in my office today and just work through all of that stuff so that the rest of the week I can focus on woodworking. I definitely didn't do that in the beginning. I was kind of doing it in the evenings or in the mornings or whatever and just picking away at it. But lately I've found to just really go through it all in sort of a batch processing way.
do you find that that's the breakdown a little bit, is one day of paperwork and the other 4 days are a little bit sink into projects, or is it a little bit more scattered than that?
It's different all the time. It depends what I'm working on, because I build huge things and I build medium things and I build small things and I build large orders of small things and small orders of small things, and there's no like consistency to what I'm building.
Yeah.
That I like we'll get into this more later, I'm sure, but this pivot that I'm talking about is launching an online store and a new website that will have a product line. And so for the first time, I'm going to have products that I can sort of find the most efficient way to build up a supply and then wait for them to sell and just work through that in a more normalized way than currently, like quoting on a waterfall countertop and also a small bench and a like set of signs for a business all in one day and then working through those for the next month.
Yeah, so as opposed to completely custom, it'll be a little bit more supply chain, and you'll be able to know the need and the amounts and quantity that people are demanding. So yeah, and that probably is just a little bit better for the mentality. Like, do you plan on doing custom work on the side a little bit still, or do you plan on hopefully building it to the place where it's all supply chain products?
My hope is that in maybe 2 years from now, it will just be purely a supply chain operation where I'm managing my resources, building products, and shipping them to where they need to go. But I think it will be a pretty slow change because in order to bankroll that, I need to do the custom work that I'm still being requested for. So
it'll be a little bit of an evolution through the process.
yeah, definitely. I've been super fortunate to have a lot of clients that want me to design their pieces for them. So it almost feels like a happy medium already where I'm not being hired to build specifically this thing. I'm being hired to build something that I would want to build for this person.
I was going to ask you about that. Has there been anything that you've built that you haven't really been not proud of, but like that hasn't been enjoyable to build?
Yeah, definitely. I can't think of an example right now, but I have to make money, and sometimes if the only quotes that come back to me are for, I don't know, something silly, I can't think of it right now, but I don't really share that work also. Like my Instagram feed and my website, it's very curated, as I'm sure everybody does. But I try
Obviously,
to
you want to
only
showpiece
work on there.
what you're proud of, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
what you want to do.
Exactly. So there's sometimes like a little Instagram hiatus because I'm just not working on something that I really want to work on in the future. So why would I share that? Why would I become known as the guy who can make that plywood garden box or something? You know? I don't want jobs like that again. So I'm just going to finish this one and be happy with it, make the customer happy, and move on.
Sorry, go ahead.
It makes sense to highlight the things that you enjoy doing as opposed to the things that that you don't. One of the things that it seems I was listening to, it's actually Malcolm Gladwell, who's one of my more favorite personal development literature writers. So he has Blink, he has Outliers, and David vs. Goliath, or a couple of the titles. I know he has some more too. But he talked a little bit. He has a podcast, and he talked about the song Hallelujah. I forget who I want to say was it Rick Springfield? No, who's the initial artist, because it's been redone so many times and become this amazing, beautiful song. But when it started out, it was very much this chaotic, weird, and he had hundreds of verses written about it. So he's very much an experimental genius, is how it was put. And then there's the opposite side, the Mozarts of the world that were born with natural talent, and all of a sudden they write a song and it's beautiful and it just comes out the exact way, and then they keep doing more. So as opposed to like trying to perfect this one thing and just nitpick until it's perfect, they just continuously do that. And to me, I kind of thought of you a little bit as the experimental type, but then the more you talk, I feel like you're a bridge of both, because you started out interested but able to build these things. Like you always had this creative freedom, but also I get the sense that you, I feel like it might be difficult for you to know when a project is done. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I am definitely a perfectionist, and that has cost me a lot of money because I don't know when a project is done. I think luckily in my medium, woodworking, you put a finish on something Like you have to be done with it.
I was going to say, do you
unless
ever
sand
consider
through
anything
it.
to ever be done?
I consider things to be done in that they have a finish on them and I'm dropping them off. But actually, a perfect example of this is this bar cart that I built recently.
Yeah, I saw photos on the Instagram page.
It's pretty nice, right?
Yeah.
But I'm making another one right now, and I've like changed a number of things that I think this newer bar cart is going to be much nicer than the first one. And like the first one got a lot of compliments and people were pretty happy with it, but I definitely am like, I could do this one thing better. Like the wheels on the first one are just solid maple wheels and they have a little bit of joinery connecting them to the axle. And so there's a nice little detail in the middle, but I didn't like the solid disc of wood basically. So I have this new design for wheels on this next one that's a little more interesting.
Something came up when you were talking about that. It's the fighter Rose Namajunas, who's the strawweight champion, also my favorite UFC fighter. But she was being interviewed on the Joe Rogan podcast. But they were talking about what she was going to do differently because she fought the same woman twice in a row. So she beat her, won the championship, and then they had a rematch because they said it was kind of a fluke. She was a heavily underdog in that first fight, and her response to what she was going to do different was like, well, you can't paint the Mona Lisa twice. And so she was like, you have to keep developing. You have to keep, you know, what worked last time might not necessarily work this time, and you might have to change up your routine. So it makes sense that, and I even think in a life sense that it's never done. You're never there. You always want to get better. So if there is that little thing that you weren't completely proud of or that one thing that you wanted to change, it makes sense to say, what can you do different the next time to make it even that slight bit better? Because if you're not doing that, well, you know, what's the goal and what's the end game, right?
Something very related to this. So in the last year, I would say I've gotten so much better at woodworking than before that. And so I'm at this point now where I've been thinking, okay, what's my style? Like, what is my furniture gonna look like sort of as a cohesive idea that it's all my furniture that I made? And recently I was listening to I think it was Design Matters, the podcast I mentioned earlier. I don't know for sure, but the person that was being interviewed said that you should not try to find your style. You should do the exact opposite, because as soon as you find your style, you're going to stop thinking critically about solving these problems in unique ways. You're going to stop pushing your own medium forward, and you're going to stop innovating in a way.
Yeah, it constricts you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you decide on a style that you like, then where do you go from there? You can only adopt that style to so many different things before it just kind of becomes stale.
Kind of makes you wonder if you go and talk to the artists in the past, if you could, to like Mozart and that, did they know they had a style? Did they know what their style was? Or did they keep on just trying to be better at what they were doing?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think style naturally just kind of comes out of any sort of artistic work that anybody does. But it's just interesting to think like I was absolutely trying to find mine, and then I realized, oh, I shouldn't try to find it at all. I should just always be trying to do my best work.
Yeah, it makes sense that something's going to develop out of you internally. So if you feel like genuinely doing that project, then it makes sense that you're doing that and that's your style at that moment. You don't necessarily have to find that. It becomes a little bit, I'm trying to think of the exact right word, kind of cliche or a little bit overdone if you start doing the same little, whatever, the noticeable thing on each project, because then it's that gimmick, right? It makes people go, okay, this is this artist or this woodcrafter's work, but then it takes away a little bit from the honest part of the work, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. If I had a specific corner detail and like leg style to all my furniture, then it's like, oh, that's what he does. Now it's a coffee table. Now it's a dining table. Now it's a side table, but it's all the same. I don't want to do that.
No, that completely makes sense.
Yeah.
So I like that we always cover exactly, like I look at questions that we've written down and then we've already covered a bunch of them too. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was your upcoming product line. Unless you don't want to give away any hints or secrets, but I thought you had some really creative and unique ideas just for the world in itself and how you might shift people's thinking on it.
It's not something that I want to keep secret, so to speak, but it's something that I'm still developing the vocabulary to talk about. So I'll say what I currently have decided is a good way of saying it.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in how we interact with materials in our life, and with technology currently just washing away our attention span and sort of creating creatures of habit in all of us, where we're just constantly flicking our thumbs over screens without even processing any of the information that we pass by. That's sort of really getting to me. And it's something that I'm struggling with. It's something that I think everybody is struggling with. Another issue that I have is clutter, and this idea that we have so much choice in products that we buy, and they're so cheap now because they're made where labor is barely even costing anything.
Yeah, it's almost slavery.
Exactly. And so we can go to any of these big box stores and get something super cheap, and then it's like, oh, I paid $5 for this. You genuinely just don't care very much about that thing. Like, you bought that nice notebook, and yeah, you're reluctant to use it because it's so nice, but you're going to keep that for a while. You're not going to replace that with another one or just misplace it carelessly. And I think that's another important thing, is if we're going to spend $5 on a notebook that we lose every 3 weeks and we just keep replacing it, by the time we've spent $30, which you spent on that one, like, you've probably only filled that a quarter of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think that mindset is being applied to clothes, to like any product that you can buy really is like that. It's the containerization, the globalization of all the markets, and it's really causing so much waste. And just so anyway, bring this back to my product line. I'm trying to develop products that scratch one of those itches in some way, shape, or form. I have a couple of lamps, a couple of wine rack. Like, here's the thing: there's going to be probably 6 products when I launch the store, and it'll just grow from there. And there's going to be the bread and butter cheese boards and wine racks that I make nice versions of them, I think, and they're popular, and so I should put them on the store so people can buy them.
Yeah.
And the way those scratch the itch is that you're buying something for a fair price. You're paying somebody in the same city to make it. You're not producing all the smog from the ships that bring it from one factory to the next.
And it's something that you're going to use for a long time, right?
Exactly.
Or at least hopefully.
Contributing less waste in buying something that is of higher quality and you're more invested in it. That's super important.
And supporting local businesses.
Yeah. And
Winnipeg is good.
I heard that Winnipeg is good.
They're pretty good.
They're pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, being mindful of where your money is flowing to. Like, so many people, myself included, just mindlessly let our money go somewhere else to somebody who's just going to hoard it. All these Fortune 100 companies, and they're like, absolutely, like, there's just a lot of problems with things. And if we could get back to a time where we're thinking more critically about what we're buying and how long we're going to have it for. Like, I don't take issue with somebody spending not very much on an IKEA coffee table. I think that's great. Just keep it.
Yeah.
Don't replace it until you absolutely need to. And if you're going to replace it, see if you can find that table a new home rather than just taking it to the dump.
Yeah.
'Cause-
create less waste, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Someone else that could use it 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so that's sort of the first pillar, is creating things that last, that people will be more conscious of their purchase of and take more care with. That comes with anything you buy that's locally made, I think. But then the second pillar being new product designs that sort of have a social commentary in and of themselves. Coming back to how we use our phones and how we can't even watch a show on the TV without periodically scrolling through nothing on our phone and not absorbing any information and just being
Huge pet peeve of mine. Not even just TV, movies. I went to see the new Avengers movie last night, and packed theater, of course, because the movie just came out a day ago, right? And the amount of phones that came on during that movie, and it's a pet peeve of mine. So like, I get this like eye twitch, like I'm thinking about ways I can hurt that person.
Oh, the film and theater snob is coming out again.
Yeah. But there's a guy in the row in front of me, directly in front of me, and he did this multiple times during the movie. He just picked up his phone, and the brightness was like pretty high too. So I'm like, everyone in the theater can obviously see this, and he goes on to check his Facebook, and then he puts his phone away. I'm like, what purpose does that serve during a movie, a highly anticipated movie that everybody wants to see? Like, why is your attention here and not there?
Yeah, that is insanity to me. And like, I'm personally trying to take steps in my own life to reduce this, because, you know, I'm not judging other people for doing that, because I do it too. I'm a product of the same.
I'm judging, but I am hypocritical because I do it.
I do it too. Like, we all have cell phones. I don't think we can live in this day and age. We can't run our businesses or our jobs or careers without them, right?
Yeah. I mean, there are extremes, like sitting in a movie. Like, I think most of us are pretty able to keep our phone in our pocket through a movie at a theater right now. I sort of have this idea, and my graphic designer friend, Dave Bach, I got to shout him out because he was in the brainstorm when we came up with this thought that we kind of have two safe spaces for our phones, one being our pocket and one being next to our bed, plugged in. And if we leave our phone anywhere else, it's lost. And it's just on a counter somewhere. It's not lost. You just put it down somewhere. But it's like you have this anxiety that comes from it, and everybody experiences this to a different degree, obviously, but it's a very real problem that we need our phone in our pocket or something is wrong. And so my thought is, maybe we can create a third safe space in our home, in our office, or whatever. And maybe that is some nice wood product that you dedicate for your phone. So I have a design for a box that would sit on your coffee table or dining table or whatever, that it's got a kind of neat way of folding open, and it's like something fun to play with, as well as you can throw 2 or 3 phones in it. And so this product definitely isn't for people who are skeptical of any of this. It's for people who already see this as a problem in their life and are struggling to find solutions and would be interested in buying something like that would aid them in that quest.
It was funny when I was writing down notes, I was like, I want this, and I also want it engraved, because I assume that there's some kind of cover, so you can't necessarily access it at that very moment, but I want it to be engraved, do you really need to use this? Because if the answer is no, then you should be doing something else. And it is that, it seems that our culture is so ingrained in just like, I have to be on my phone. Or what happened in Instagram in the past 3 minutes? I bet you somebody posted on their story or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I get caught up in that too much lately, because it's been learning Instagram and learning good posts, because I had an iPhone 5S for the longest time, and I was reluctant to give it up because I went, well, it still works. And I don't really care. I'm not somebody that has to have the latest technology. I just wanted something that worked. And it just so happened I lost my phone and broke it, and whatever, it's gone now. And so I needed a new one. And then now I have the technology. And now I've been a little bit more obsessive, especially around learning the social media side and trying to at least get an audience for this podcast. So it's become necessity, But then the problem is it trains your brain to go, oh, I wonder what people are up to, or I wonder what's happening. And so I think I wish I could more purposefully use my time during the day, which I was much better with when I didn't have the latest technology and I wasn't worried about it as much. So if it was, okay, spend 20 minutes right now, look at what happened in the day, maybe look at how posts are going and post what you have to, and then put it away, because I'm not that popular that I'm getting buzzed every messages every 2-3 minutes. Like, I'm not running a business off my phone. So I really only need it an hour out of the day, and then maybe text some people or plan whatever I have to for the week. So
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. We're so invested in other people's lives and what they're doing, and like what good comes from it too. And looking at other people's Instagram stories or Snapchat stories or whatever. I've been there too, and I've kind of learned to get away from it. And maybe it's a little harder for you because you're dealing a lot with our social media as well. I spend very little time on social media. I don't do it more than I have to. And the most time I spend on Facebook is to put up a post and to reply to people's comments that they leave for me. I don't really see what's on other people's pages very often. I don't really check other people's Snapchat stories. And it kind of irks me a little bit when I come to work on a Monday morning and I ask what someone did for the weekend, and they said, well, didn't you see my Snapchat story? And no, I didn't, because I was living my own life.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I'm as guilty as anyone for having my cell phone on it. I use it before bed. I go on Reddit and things to kind of catch up on the world. But I've been becoming more conscious about things, and one of the big things was being on the toilet using my phone. And instead of going on something like Instagram or Reddit or something, I'll listen to a podcast or listen to an audiobook and put the phone down. So if I I'm in a place where I have opportunity to use my phone, I'm using it in a productive manner where I can at least learn something from it and gain something from it, rather than investing my time in someone else's life that doesn't really affect me in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, that's something that I think about a lot. When I'm using my phone, am I using it purely for entertainment, or am I getting some sort of knowledge out of this, or am I using it as a tool? And it's interesting you bring up the podcast. Like, sometimes in the morning, I wake up and I go on my phone for a little bit, and then I catch myself, okay, this has been a little long, but my brain is so ready for more entertainment right now. And so I find a nice bridge is just to go into podcasts and put one on, and then just get up and put my phone in my pocket and just kind of listen to it through the speaker as I get ready.
Yeah, I've started doing that too recently. The first thing I'll do is I'll be like halfway through a podcast and I'll just hit play, put it in my pocket, go get ready, go to the bathroom, go downstairs and make breakfast, and before you know it, you're halfway through a podcast in that amount of time, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's very sad that we're at this point where we need to find these like bridges to get us from the constant entertainment that our phone can provide to like being productive, but it is the reality. Another thing that I do now is I have an app that tracks my time, and where all my time goes, it's like on a per project basis.
Nice.
And I attach clients to different projects. And so I didn't even do this as something to aid me in getting away from my phone, but I found, I mean, obviously I use it to track my business. It's not about the phone, but I found naturally, as soon as I would hit start on a timer with a project, my brain would just shift, and I would
you're more
get
committed
to
to
work,
it, right? Yeah.
and I would do exactly that.
Yeah.
And then I would stop that timer maybe at 11 o'clock, and I'd want to make an Instagram post, and so I'd start a timer for social media management. And then it's like, it's keeping me honest, and I make my post. It takes me a while. It's kind of funny. You like edit things and you whatever. That's a whole other digression.
I was actually, one of my questions for you is and how you manage your time and accordingly. And I'm curious to know what kind of app you use for it.
It's called Toggle.
Or same one I use. Nice. Yeah. Which is actually a really interesting app. There's like the free version and then the premium, which gives you, I guess, more stats. It's pretty cool to see, like, in terms of that, and you can add billing hours into it and everything too, which is pretty cool.
Percentage of your time is billable.
Yeah,
which is handy.
And then going to look back on it, say you're looking back on the last week or the last month, you can see kind of where your time has been committed the most and see where you kind of slipped up a little bit. And you can, it's interesting because it makes you more conscious about how you're using your time.
Yes.
And it almost makes you more productive in a way.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Like I think I'm working the same hours as before I used the app. I've been using the app for 4 months now. Nope, 5, sorry. And it's genuinely changed how I think at work. Like when I have the timer going for a project, I'm in that project. As soon as I stop and pull my phone out, I stop on that project because I know I'm about to do something else. And so I'll start a new timer, and I'm trying to hit 25% of my time is business. So lunch, social media, web design, quoting, taxes, bookkeeping, all that, 25%, and then 75% projects.
Nice.
And I think that's a pretty lofty goal, honestly, because it's sitting about 38%. But yeah, it's changing how I work, and I'm excited about it.
Well, even thinking if it even gives you a 10% or 15% increase in your productivity, that's time you get back in the end. Is a good way of thinking of it. I haven't ever tried out Toggle, but I've been interested in trying to find things to apps or anything to make me more productive.
There's a lot of them now. Toggle has existed for a long time now. I think since 2011. I started using it around 2014, so I've been using it for about 4 years now, and it's even I'd say the premium version's worth it too. It's not very expensive. I think what is it, $5 a month or something like that? Not even. Sure. And it just kind of breaks down everything for you and tells you, and you can look back on everything to the beginning of when you started using it, right? And you can break things down to categories and subcategories. So it just gives you such a nice display, and it's really well. The user interface is really intuitive and really easy to read.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of it is the main screen of it is like a history of all the last things you've done, and so you get like a bird's eye view, and there's that benefit, but also you can just tap on any of them to start that timer up again. And so you don't even type or anything. You just open the app and you see on the first page like what you're about to work on because you were just working on it yesterday or something. Yeah. You just tap it and then you lock your phone and you work. It's not
complicated. You don't have to spend 5 minutes on your phone just to start something, right?
Just tap and
tap done. Yeah.
Tap toggle.
Tap toggle. Duck goose. So what do you do at the end of the day to stay fulfilled or recoup from daily activities? Do you have daily practices or fitness routine or?
Yeah, my girlfriend Joanna has gotten really into fitness lately, and she's doing some fitness challenges of some kind. She's been doing them for like a year now, and so she's like going crazy at the gym, and so I try to get in on that whenever I can. I also like showering at the gym because the water is free.
True. Yeah. Underrated thing I never really thought of.
Yeah. Yeah. So I go to the gym with her, and I invested in a decent bike about 3 years ago. So now the weather's nice. I'm biking as much as I can, and that, like, I really enjoy biking. It's really nice to center yourself and just kind of work off some stress and just feel like you're really doing something that is ultimately good.
Yeah.
That's interesting because the way you talk about it almost sounds like a meditation where it de-stresses, and you said centered yourself too, which I find walking really is that. Running a little bit, but it's different. I find I listen to music when I run and I try and push the pace. So it's a little more, you don't really get that time with your own thoughts that you might get. Maybe if I didn't listen to music, it would be more meditative, but I've just found the way I can do it. But it is that, and then actually sitting down and meditating really has that effect too. But that's cool that you've found an output that makes you, like, gets rid of the stress of the day and that allows you to recenter. And I feel like everybody has that certain thing that they turn to for some kind of relaxation or just recentering.
The unfortunate part about mine is that I can't do it in the winter, and we had a pretty long winter. And so, like, I'm feeling good now, but towards the end of this winter, I was just so ready to get on my bike and I was in a bad spot.
See, I did RPM this morning, so
Nice.
I've started doing that. It was basically to bridge training for the Spartan race. Obviously, cardio is really important, but again, you can't run outside when it's winter in Winnipeg. So it was, well, what could I do for cardio? And so started these RPM classes and sweat buckets, and I don't really find it as relaxing or centering. I've done a lot more yoga and things for that, but it is important to have those outputs, those things that you can do for it.
Come Saturday morning, you do RPM with me, 11 a.m.
Saturday morning? Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. I'm trying to think of what excuse I have. I just don't normally. I just don't normally do workouts on Saturdays. Has been the thing lately because
That's your day of rest.
it's a little bit my day of rest because we do the podcast today, and I actually don't mind getting up in the morning and doing something. It's nice to be productive, sweat it out, whatever, and then come here after.
I like it because it gets my day going, and it's nice. We talked about this before, but it makes my Saturday feel more like a weekday in terms of productivity. Whereas before, Saturday was very much a write-off day for me. I'd just be like, I'm just going to laze around at home. Now I work and do the RPM, and RPM is like right after. So I only take morning clients, and then I'll do RPM right after those clients, and I'll feel like wide awake and ready to go for the rest of the day, and it's only noon, right? Whereas if I were to stay home, I'm like, well, I'm just waking up at noon.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, RPM is a cycle class at Good Life.
Rhythm. What's the
Per minute?
No, it's
What?
Rhythm per minute.
Do they actually have a? I don't
Rhythm?
even know. I work there and I don't know.
RPM.
I just thought it was rotations per minute because of bikes.
Something music. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I heard it once, but it's not really that important. It really is the thing I like about it is you follow the music, and being a drummer in a former life, well, I guess full circle. Actually, you also have a Cayenne.
Yeah, I don't anymore, actually. I sold it.
Dang.
What's a
Sorry to let
Cayenne?
you down. It's a wood box that has a snare behind one of the faces on the front.
Okay.
And so you sit on it, and you can play the front, like you can get a snare and sort of a bass drum sound out of it if you hit it in different
wow.
spots. Do you have?
I bought a Cayenne.
Yeah, you should have
Yes.
bought mine.
I should have bought yours. I didn't know you were going to sell yours. I honestly thought you might have made your own. Was because I
do want to do that, actually.
That would be super cool.
Mhm.
I'd buy that one. I started playing mine. It was actually, it evolved alongside. I started performing at a coffee shop, but I was doing karaoke versions of songs, which wasn't even frowned upon because they're like, you could do comedy, you could say a speech, you can sing. So it's more for entertainment and fun and just a cool thing that the city has to offer. Shout out to Joe Black Coffee and Chrissy Brown for that. She hosts every week on Wednesday nights, if you're interested. So I started performing there, and then I wanted to be a musician. I didn't just want to be a karaoke singer. And so I went, I don't have the time or skill necessary to learn guitar and be able to play acoustic songs, but I did used to play the drums. So I went, what's something portable? And I looked at congas, and I went, it's just they're too bulky and they're too big, and I'd have to make the drum playing smiley face.
Yeah, that face you got to master.
The Caribbean smile. But then decided on the Cayenne because it had the different noises. You had the bass and the snare, and then could even knock on the sides and make some unique noises. But yeah, it's such a cool instrument. But that process was really cool too. Just putting myself outside my comfort zone and actually performing in front of people. And nobody has ever told me I had a good singing voice before, but I know I'm a little bit...
I still have yet to hear it, so...
Yeah, well... Yeah, I keep it a little bit.
I mean, you do have a microphone directly in front of you.
I do have a microphone.
Just saying.
I just noticed you're sitting on a Cayenne.
I've just been waiting for this
just
moment.
Set this up?
Yeah, I've just been waiting for this moment. My
His debut
whole life.
Podcast is a sham.
It's really just for my music career. Yes. So what gives you a sense of purpose or meaning in the world, and what difference do you hope to make in the world?
Oh,
I know that's getting very deep.
good segue.
See, sometimes you just got to throw one out there and see what happens.
What gives me a sense of purpose? I think that I have genuinely built some nice things for people that they are going to treasure for a very long time. And it really brings a lot of satisfaction and joy to see that on delivery day. And then weeks later, getting a random text from a client just saying how awesome something is, and seeing them post a picture of something, or like hearing future clients say, yeah, this is my friend had this made from you. And so anyway, that whole side is so satisfying, and it gives me purpose for sure. Moving forward into the future, I'm I'm a little ambitious about this, but I'm really hoping to create a product line that kind of questions how we use some of the materials in our life, and suggests maybe a more considered approach to purchasing and using products in our home and wherever. I don't know if that's too lofty a goal or not, but I've got some ideas, and I'd really like to share them with the world soon, and hopefully they gain a little traction.
It's nice to live for those moments, whether it's having a project finished, or it's just that small appreciation. I kind of liked what you said of getting that text that somebody is just really excited about it, or just wanted to share that with you, that they enjoyed whatever you made for them. That's been the process with this too, is just having people kind of from all over just reach out and be like, hey, I like the podcast, or it's cool that you're doing this, or whatever it is. It's those little things that really keep you going and keep you motivated, and really just, they are fulfilling. And so it's great to just, those little things are what keep you driving forward and keep you moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. They're very affirming, and it makes you feel like you're doing the right thing, and you can just keep going without worry that you're doing the wrong thing, even when some days it really feels like you're doing the wrong thing.
So how do you stay balanced in your life? Like, do you do a work-life balance, and how maybe do you measure that with yourself?
I work really hard, and then I crash, and I'm really tired of it, and I want to stop doing that, but that's what's going on right now. I'm working like very, very long hours for a few days, and then I'm working like 4 hours for a day, and then I'm working 8 hours, and then 10 hours. And it's just like,
Why do you think you do that? What's the cause of that?
I've always been sort of last minute and late. So I usually won't do something until it needs to be done. And the time before I start doing that thing that needs to be done, I just kind of, play with my own ideas and stuff. So I just, like, I'll show up to the wood shop and feel like, okay, that client's project needs probably 4 hours today. So I'll get to that in a bit because I want to play with this idea I have, or something like that. And then I'll play with an idea for a little too long, and I'll underestimate how long that client's project is going to take that day. And then it'll be 10 hours on the clock, and I'm frustrated, and I need to go home on my bike. And hopefully by the time I'm home, I feel centered and good, and then wake up and do it again.
Yeah.
So I struggle, I guess, is the thing. I struggle with finding the work-life balance, and that's definitely an important part of this supply chain goal that I have, is to be able to really manage something that has like very consistent steps to the beginning and the end. And I don't know.
For sure. It's not something that you can just do, right? Like, you have to, it's almost a discovery thing. You have to figure out what your limits are in a day, what can you and can't do, what's going to burn you out, what can you do that's where you can relax a bit and go back to it and keep it consistently week after week, right? And I think that's different for everyone in terms of what they can and can't do. I feel like I'm kind of that way as well, whereas I'll get super motivated about something and kind of just go full tilt on it for like 3 days straight, and then that fourth day is just like, my brain is just not going to do anything this day. and I have to recuperate for 1 or 2 days and then do that over again. And it's not like the healthiest way to go about it, right?
I think you almost have to do that, though. You have to sink completely
Sure.
into something, but then you also have to know when you need to take time. I struggle with that too. I think there's things that need to be done, and sometimes you just have to push through. You're not going to be completely motivated to do it, but you have to push through and do it anyways, because it's often, if you let that defeat you too many times, that feeling of, well, I can wait a little bit or I can do that tomorrow, then you just start to fall into that mindset. So sometimes it's worth pushing through.
Sure.
But then,
Being
like I said,
self-analytical about it is important too, though. So like I've recently like started shifting my sleep schedule around just to find and just kind of analyzing myself. I'm like, okay, when am I most productive in the day? When can I get the most done? And when am I doing the least? And it turns out around 9 p.m. to midnight, I'm not doing anything. I come home and I'll watch a show and like I'm ready for bed, but I'm kind of in that mindset. Whereas like I'm not going to go to bed until midnight. And I actually was recently listening to another podcast where they were talking about, I'm like, think about how crazy it is. People start going to bed at midnight. Think of what midnight actually means. It means the middle of the night. So you're going to bed in the middle of the night. And we're still like, and that's the time when we're like, okay, I'm going to go to bed, go on my phone for bed. And by that time, it's like, 1 a.m. by the time I get to sleep, right? So it's like, well, let's do, in my life, I'm like, hey, there's 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours of my time in a day. That's 1/6 of the entire day that's being wasted on nothing. Let's get rid of that. Or get rid of most of it, or bring it down to like 1 hour. And then so I get up earlier now and get up around 5:30, 6 a.m. Trying to do the sun thing, like get up with the sun. And then I'm like, well, and then I find that I'll throw in the podcast in the morning, go get ready, make my breakfast, go to the gym and work out, and then I'm ready for the rest of the day. I don't have to throw my workout into the middle of the day, and now I have all this time in the middle of the day to do other things.
See, that mindset has become so important in my life, and it's almost that I never knew a different way. And I would say a little bit because of working in industry as the hospitality industry. They always call it industry. I don't know why. The industry.
It's the only one.
Yeah, it's the only one. But basically, I've switched my sleep schedule up countless times in my life. There's been times where I've been in university or school when you're getting up at 7 for classes at 8:30. And then there's been staying up till 4 a.m., closing the bar, going to bed, and waking up at 2 p.m. the next day by the time you're home and settled and centered enough to actually get some sleep and the Red Bull's worn off. God, I wouldn't want to go back to that lifestyle.
I used to finish a serving shift and then go to the Snap Fitness at about 2:30.
Wow.
And that crew of people in the Snap Fitness at 2:30 is an odd one.
The friendliest?
Honestly,
Interesting.
it was like you kind of have this bond and you don't talk much, but you like always acknowledge everybody. Like it was a weird thing to be a part of. It's like we're all here being weirdos together.
Together.
There is some kind of community in that.
Mm-hmm.
But now on the complete flip side, but I come from the exact same place as that, where I go to bed at 11, but what was I really doing from 9 till 11? Well, not very much, if anything.
Yeah.
Nothing productive, at least. And it's funny because now I look forward to getting up at 5. At 4:30 is a stretch for me.
Yeah,
Because it's tough for me to actually get in bed by 9:30 and get to sleep by a decent hour. Like even 10 is sometimes
sleep is important.
difficult.
I feel like a lot of people don't give sleep enough credit, I guess. They don't sleep enough, right? In this day and age, like, it's 5-6 hours probably on average for a lot of people. And like you're not doing your body any favors. It's not getting enough rest. You're like it is actually slowly killing you. That is.
Yeah, you could take away some of your needless entertainment and just have another hour or two of sleep.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, some people can function off that much, but how good is it long term and things? But it is, you could easily make those small sacrifices to get a full night's sleep, and you'll probably be better, more productive, and enjoy it more. The last point I had with it is I actually look forward to my mornings too, especially I start work at 8:30 normally, but if I've worked out and had breakfast before that, that's already part of my day that I then don't really have to worry about after work, so I can focus on making dinner, being productive on things outside of my job that I'm trying to build and accomplish. So it's just nice to take a little bit of that time back. But
Yeah.
I look forward to the morning workout, and then I don't dread. I've suffered with it before. It's that work dread that you have. You know you're getting up, you're eating, you're just getting on the bus or whatever. You're driving to work, and then that's what you're going to do for 8 hours, and then you'll probably be exhausted by the end. Whereas if I get a workout and get a good breakfast in, and maybe read on the bus because I'm already awake by that point, I just feel that much better about my day already. I've already accomplished a ton that I wanted to that day, so it's a good feeling, and I never thought I would enjoy getting up at 5 a.m. That is a direct. You can quote me on that.
Yeah, I think it's a little easier come spring, summertime too, when the sun's up earlier and you don't have to wait till 8 a.m. for it to come up with you, because otherwise it just feels like you're getting up at night and you have that 3-4 hours of night still before even this day starting.
Yeah.
Well, I think you sold me. I'm going to make a conscious effort to get up at 5 at some point in the next 20 years.
Just once.
I'll give it a try.
It's finding what works for you too. It is a little different.
Well, and there's different people. Like some people are more productive at night. Then so be it. Like stay up till 2 a.m. and then sleep till 10 a.m. That's fine. If that's the way you work, that's the way you work, right? Not everyone's the same.
Like I said, I share a shop with an upholsterer, Top Stitch, by the way. Probably the best upholstery shop in the city, honestly. But he has a few staff members. One of them is mostly in the wood shop. Kind of has his own area for sure. We both have our own areas, but then the bigger tools are shared. And so if one of us just happens to want to mill all of our lumber on the table saw and jointer and planer, that's going to take 4 hours. And if the other person also wants to do exactly that, because that's the beginning of any project, it's like there are those odd times where it doesn't really work out. I'd say it happens only like once a month. It's pretty miraculous how rarely that happens, but it does make it easier if I'm just there after hours. I have the whole shop to myself at 4:30. So if I come in at 10 and it'll work till 7, if there is ever sort of a conflict of tool need, then I can just save that till 4:30.
Yeah. So it just helps you work around that schedule too, and make sure that you can be productive at different times sometimes too.
I mean, like it's really not an issue, but it's just easier to have the workshop to yourself. I definitely have many things on the go at any given time, so I can kind of flip flop when I need to be wherever I can be. But yeah, it's nice working in a wood shop alone as well. I think in the next few years, that's definitely something I will look at. But
it's probably nice to have some people around.
Yeah, the ability to brainstorm and just like be around productive energy, and like the other woodworker has formal training in woodworking and furniture design, so he's sort of a walking textbook, which is nice to have around for sure. And there are so many benefits to sharing a shop with the upholsterer Top Stitch that I do. But I mean, at some point, I'll outgrow that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's finding what works. One of the things I wanted to ask is, what's the best advice for anyone looking to start their own business?
Don't underestimate how much time you're going to spend doing things that you didn't even think were going to be a part of what you're going to do. There are so many little things that just add up to take up all of your time that you would never see coming. And they're still happening to me now. I've been in business for 2 years on my own, and a year before that with Jeremy. And there's still things that come up that catch me off guard that I have to deal with. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. Like, I have worked other jobs for other people before, and it's easy to think, like when I was a carpenter's apprentice, for instance, like I was pretty trusted to kind of get work done on my own. I had a decent amount of responsibility just a few months into that job, and I would catch myself thinking all the time, like, why do I need to make a wage from this boss of mine who is making money off of me doing this thing that is my work. And it was really like off-putting at times. But now that I'm in it, it's like, wow, he was doing so much stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that will continue to surprise me probably for 20 years. So
one of the things I really liked about your mindset, it's something that you touched on earlier, but I feel is so important, is just, and I forget how you phrased it, but I would phrase it as rolling with the punches and being able to come up with solutions in the moment.
mm-hmm.
And I feel that it might be a skill that not everybody has, but especially if you're going to be creative, or even with my background in programs, there's always going to be things that come up that you don't expect, or you're going to have to shift in the moment. So I'm trying to think of examples, but it would be like an event happening and all of a sudden you have this movie that's going to be playing outside and it starts to thunderstorm warning and you got to get everybody out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you do that? And do you have a backup plan? And thankfully, the one time that actually happened, I had a backup plan. We got everybody out because you couldn't have people outside and thunderstorm. I mean, all sorts of health
mm-hmm.
and potential risks there. So thankfully, earlier on in the day, I had the mind to actually plan this out. If so happened that there were, like, the thunderstorms were supposed to not even be across the city. They were supposed to go north of the city. But I went, just in case, I'm going to plan to have all the seats arranged in this one area, and ended up just having to step on the microphone and tell everybody to get up into the shelter, but then be able to continue the event as planned. So, and I went, I'm so thankful that I did this, and it took an extra couple hours that day, but would have had to cancel the event and probably had a lot of upset people had the worst happen and I not been prepared for it. So there's just always those moments that arise that you have to be ready for.
Yeah, you have to be adaptive. And I guess I should add that I wouldn't say that as a discouragement. I would just say that, like, you need to be ready to adapt at all times. And I think it's important to put yourself in those positions. If you wait until you know everything you need to know to do something, you won't ever do it because you will literally never know everything you need to know. You need to just start. You need to launch and then learn.
Yeah.
Find out what you need to know as you need to know it. And if you can adapt to the situations that get thrown at you, then you're going to succeed. But if you're going to wait around and feel like, I'm not quite ready to dive into this because I don't feel like I have all the skills yet. The secret is nobody does. Like, everybody is just doing their best. And that's it.
Well said. Yeah. I mean, you can prepare all you want, but there's always going to be those situations that come up or something that comes up that you're going to be completely unprepared for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to, like you said, got to be able to adapt and deal with it as it comes, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I went through that on the other side where I failed a business, which it never really got its feet off the ground, but I had to make the decision that it wasn't worth pursuing because I wasn't able to secure the kind of both funding, but actually running the programming, the youth programming that I was hoping to. I had kind of a way that I could unveil it, and I wanted to market towards youth within school divisions, but it just didn't work out. And I met a lot of, would say, close-minded people, and then it just wasn't going to be the amount of programming that I wanted to run. And maybe I should have stuck with it longer. There's all these things that you play back. It really did feel like that sense of loss when I had to make that decision to say, this isn't worth investing in because there's no return in any kind of near future. And it would be developing it maybe on the side as something small, but just in terms of investment to return, there was just nothing on the horizon. And so I went, it's not worth it. But that feeling is just so, and it's funny because I feel that I'm an adaptable person, but I'm also, you have to be, in that sense, I'm glad I was realistic because I still don't feel, I think it's something you said where nothing that you've done seems like a failure. It just seems like learning.
Yeah, it's formative. It's not failure.
And I completely feel that way about failing, quote unquote. It definitely was a tough time to go through that next couple of months of what now? What do I want to do for career and life and job? But I look back at that and go, well, at least I was able to be creative. I made a business plan. I figured out how it would work. And then when that didn't happen, at least I was able to go make that decision to be like, this doesn't make sense. Let's figure something else out in the future. And so I still feel that, and I feel that there was so much I was able to accomplish from that. And then I went on this kind of adventure to where I'm at now, but I feel that I'm almost doing more so what I'm meant to do now than ever before, which is a cool feeling to have. Is maybe that didn't work out, so something else down the road even better could.
Right. And I think that's an important takeaway from something that could be seen as a failure. It's not. It's something that you learned. Like, humans are naturally stubborn and they have to learn things on their own. Like, I think that's why older people are so reluctant to give advice, because they've just been trying their whole life to tell people of their struggles and why they happened. And you could learn from me, but people are just like, no, I'll be fine. And then they ultimately fail in some of these situations because they need to learn that lesson themselves.
Yeah.
And
you can't just tell them, right?
exactly.
It's funny. I read that basically that direct thing from Jordan Peterson's book, but he was like, with psychology, he's a clinical psychologist, but with his patients, he's like, you can't do anything for them. You have to they have to oftentimes sort it through for themselves. You can't, if you become too diagnostic, you're just going to put your thoughts onto them. So it's really helping people work through it in their own way and figure out what the solutions could be to that problem in their own mind. So it's don't do anything for someone else that they can do for themselves. And so that's maybe a little bit of the wisdom. You could have that old person that's telling you all this stuff, but you really do have to learn from experience, and maybe their experience led them in the right direction, but maybe your direction is somewhere completely different too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's life.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's true. I mean, you can look at it as failure, but I like the way you say it's not failure. I mean, failing would be you not getting back up, right? Just kind of staying down. But if you're willing to get back up and try again and learn from your mistakes, then that's no longer a failure. That's just a lesson that you're learning on the way to your success.
Yeah.
So maybe on the same line, what is the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome or are learning to overcome?
I would say I have so many things swirling in my head right now. It's expensive. It's very expensive. And like quoting accurately, and then like now I'm keeping track of my time with Toggle. And so I quote somebody for 10 hours and then I see, oh, it was 16. Okay. Well, part of what I've been doing is not changing from my quoted price. That's always been important to me. If I were giving an estimate, it would be a different story, but I'm giving a quote. And so I feel obligated to keep that price the same. I don't want to surprise people. I took a lot of issue with how my ex-boss ran some of his jobs, where it was just like the prices would kind of go up and
fluctuate.
Yeah, and I get that that's how that industry works on some levels, but anyway, I just didn't want that to be a part of my business. So a lot of times I'll put in twice the amount of work I thought it was going to be, and then it's hard to learn those lessons over and over because I'm an optimist. At the end of the day, I always think something is going to take less time.
Yeah.
And I think there's an argument to be made about like that is a good thing inherently, because if you were realistic about how long things took, you wouldn't take on any of those projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, think about that example you used, quoting someone 10 hours and you taking 16 hours. It's 6 hours of free work you did for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, and I guess you learn from it, right? And you grow. I think I like that you have that integrity that, well, I'm not going to change from my quoted price. My price is my price. I think that builds loyalty from customers too. They're going to come back because, well, because you didn't come back to them like, well, actually, it's going to be $100 more now, right?
Yeah.
People are usually never pleased to hear that.
Exactly. There has been a few rare cases where, like, halfway through the project, we have some sort of communication where it's like, hey, this isn't going the way that I thought this part would, so I have to do this. Or we could, like, it's just a communication thing. I'm very communicative with the procedure, and sometimes a certain idea that I had doesn't quite pan out the way I want it to, and so I have to switch gears and maybe try something else. And if that does mean there needs to be a change in the money, then I have to communicate that. But that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to be, though. Just be honest. And that is something that everybody has to learn throughout business. Is just communication is really key. People say that all the time, but literally, if you can talk to somebody, tell them exactly what's going on, be honest, and especially if you build that reputation of being honest, it just becomes that much easier to communicate with people, let them know what's happening, and then find some kind of solution that's fair for everybody. And so that makes a lot of sense. So a little bit of a shift of gears. What issue do you believe is most important in the world today, and what would you like to see changed in the world? I know you talked a little bit about technology, but any other issues?
I think just a general sort of lack of
You can be completely
How do
honest.
I put this?
You can be blatant.
I think that we are all aware of certain things going on in the world and unaware of other things going on in the world, and there's a bit of a breakdown of what we should maybe be prioritizing. And I think in general, like myself included, but everyone is perfectly happy to just kind of have their blinders up and just like they sink into their own life and their own job and their own family, and they think, I've carved this out for myself. I make this amount of money so that I can have this house and raise this kid and have this car, and everything is good for me. But it's like, and like I said, that I absolutely have this problem myself. But we could all maybe open up our eyes a little bit to more things that are going on around the world. Like we have so many issues with global warming, and we have all this waste we're producing with fast fashion and other trends. Like more and more things are disposable or only meant to last a certain amount of time, and we're just perfectly happy to
rapidly increasing issue. It's gaining more traction in the news and everything too with the deposits. Have you ever heard of the I forget what it's called, in the Pacific Ocean? There's an area where all the currents converge.
Funny, because I was going to mention this. So it's the garbage, whatever, it all accumulates island, basically.
But it's a very large portion in the Pacific Ocean that's just you can.
I wish I remembered the exact statistics on how big it is, but Boyan Slat with the ocean cleanup is actually building
half the size of Texas, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah, because the Americans always measure in Texas, something like that. And but yeah, Boyan Slat, the ocean cleanup, they're actually building something to clean up all the garbage that's floating around, so the plastics and thing, and even coming up with ways that they can recycle that plastic into material goods that they can sell to then fund the cleanup even more. So it's a cool, sustainable way to clean up our oceans, which hopefully will have a positive environmental impact. And it seems like one of those steps in the right direction and the right mentality that we should start to adopt in a lot of different areas. Like you said, the consumer culture where we're just continuously buying perishable goods, or at least unsustainable goods that are just like find their way into the landfill in 2 years, 3 years, and when you could be building them to last for 20.
Yeah.
So, and it seems that we need such a bigger focus on that. And I hope that we're getting there, because we're getting to a point where it seems that things globally are going to get much worse in terms of natural disasters, famine, pollution, disease, and you're going to start to see populations and maybe even new diseases emerge, could wipe out whole populations in certain places.
Well, did you hear what Bill Gates recently said?
No.
He expects in the next 6 months we'll start hearing about an epidemic that will be that will affect more than 30 million people of the earth.
Yeah. Well, and there seem to be the startings of that even in Africa with the what was it?
Well, his foundation helps fight things like that, right?
What was the virus though that ate away at people? Basically, it was a death sentence if you didn't have the proper medical care.
Yeah. What's it called?
This is gonna bother me.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I can't think of what it's called.
We can come back to it when somebody thinks of it.
Next podcast, we'll correct ourselves, or someone will send me a message.
But anyways, it seems like things like that will just emerge all over the place, which is kind of an unfortunate consequence of all the things that we've done in the past. I mean, industry has been great for so many reasons, and it's allowed for a global economy and for us to be able to communicate across oceans instantaneously, which is really interesting. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're seeing the adverse effects, and it's funny because presidents, U.S. presidents, back even to the 1900s, were focused and even talked about unnecessary waste as being a problem. Mm-hmm. I was reading about Teddy Roosevelt, and that was one of the things that he said. I wish I remembered the exact quote, but that's funny. At the early 1900s, they already had that mindset, and then all of a sudden we have presidents. Trump doesn't believe in global warming, I believe, is one of the... Mm-hmm. I know he's a conspiracy theorist of sorts, too.
He also doesn't understand global warming, so...
Well, but it has to do a little bit with political mentalities. The Republicans are more business, right? And so you want to keep the business people happy. Well, you allow them to drill for oil absolutely everywhere. And because you say the markets are going to drive people to... Basically... More money is a good thing for businesses. Businesses give people jobs, and that's going to fuel people to the future. But I understand the other side of if you're completely liberal-minded and you go, we just want peace, love, and harmony, and let's be hippies and whatever. Well, then we don't have any of these things that we currently do. So it is finding that balance. It's nice that both sides exist because they basically serve to keep the other side in line. Whereas if you have a dictator or you have some sort of other leader, they're just going to build things in whatever their image is, a king, whatever it is. Anyways, that was a complete tangent. But
no, you're right. And it's crazy because we're putting ourselves in a position where something like a new disease is going to come up and very much decimate a large part of the population. And we're so ill-equipped for it because things like our governments, especially American government, put so much money into military to protect ourselves from other nations rather than the thing that's unseen, that unseen bacteria, unseen virus that can hit tomorrow, right? Yeah. And the thing is, there's nothing in place that can stop it going worldwide. There's so much, think of it, if it happens in New York, that it'll spread like wildfire across the entire world in a matter of days.
I think that that's an example of something that we just need to be more aware of. And as soon as you start to look into any category of any of these world issues, you start to unearth evidence and all these things that you'd never even know about if you weren't open-minded to just take that other look. And that to me is the big problem. It's that people aren't even looking. You have an interest in this disease, and it's you have learned about this, and you know the potential risks in that, and you have a little bit of a snapshot of the political situation in the U.S., and it's as soon as you start to carve deeper into any of these different categories, it's just full of...
You can see blaring issues that, or things that need changing in almost absolutely every category.
We're wasting I actually saw today that we're wasting 40% of the food that's made in the United States.
That makes
Really?
sense.
It just goes to
40%.
waste?
It just gets thrown out.
Ow.
That is insane. And a lot of that is because people have they want choice. They have these big fridges, they want to keep them full, and they want to be able to eat whatever they want whenever they want. And then they waste it.
Well, and plus probably the practices of like fast foods, and they
Yeah.
have to like, oh, we have to have fresher food for customers, so we'll throw yesterday's stuff out.
And then bags and non-reusable whatever.
See, this is another thing. You
Like,
just start
all sorts
digging
of-
into
There you go.
one
Accumulation,
thing, and it's
right.
like we can already come
But
up with a load of problems.
It's funny what even those things bother me now. Like I've purposely made it, and it's small things because it's unfortunate you can't change absolutely everything in a day, right? But your own practices you can be a little bit more mindful of. So it's like I went to the store today. I had to buy contact solution and some different things, and it's like, do you want a bag? No. I'll put this in my gym bag when I get to the car. I can hold 3 things or 4 things. So, and I even see it with my food. Like, I like to eat absolutely everything I can, and I feel bad when I'm throwing out, even when it's, I'll peel the outside of the yam off, and I'm like, damn, I feel like I want to use this for something.
Yeah.
But it's like you have to be realistic, but being more mindful of it and trying to be conscious of, well, how much groceries do I need? How much do I cook in a week? Like, let's limit the amount of waste. 40% seems ridiculous. That's almost half the food in your fridge, which is really silly. And think of how big that country is too. But even if you made it a U.S. or make it a North American goal to get down to 20% in 5 years, like, make steps towards that.
Yeah.
And we need to focus on that. It's becoming an epidemic, like at least in the very near future, if not already on its way there.
Yeah, that's crazy. Considering like that just baffles my mind. 40% of food going to waste. Meanwhile, people are starving to death in other parts of the world.
So I found out about this startup that exists just to connect the people with excess food to the people that need food. And so I think it's just in California right now, but it's basically just an app that's simple. You say, I have this, and it can be picked up here. And then they have a driver from the startup that will pick up the food and bring it to whatever, like food shelter or wherever it needs to go.
That's neat. Do you know the name of it?
I could find it.
Okay. That's crazy. That's an awesome idea if they can do something eventually where it becomes almost international.
Well, one of the worst parts of restaurants is
Copia.
Copia?
Sorry.
No, that's fine. One of the worst parts of restaurants is the amount of waste. And because there's essentially restaurants could be sued. At least this is the reason I've been given at restaurants, but they could be sued if there were tainted or like food that made somebody sick. So that's why they have to throw it all out, which it just seems silly to be wasteful of all these things that could be used in something like a shelter, that could be used for good. Maybe there's some signature that's needed that's like, okay, I know that this food might be tainted in some way or whatever, but I'm willing to eat it. Like, it seems like eating, and 99% of the time it's going to be healthy, as opposed to going and starving for another day. I feel like I'll take the 1% risk that it's not healthy for me. It might make me a little bit sick than the 100% chance that I'm hungry for another night.
For sure.
Maybe that's just me, but I feel like there's definitely a way you could make that happen that's not very difficult.
Yeah.
It's probably a signature and you're good to go. But it does seem, one of the things that I just wanted to mention, the mentality of ignorance is bliss is something that's kind of come up, is like, it really seems that, and like you said, that mentality of just, you have the blinders on, you go forward through life and you're ignorant to the things happening around you. And so it is that finding out those little things that you need to know, like just being curious about just the world in general and the things
about some
around
things
you.
anyway. I get, like, it's impossible to not be ignorant to some things, right?
Yeah,
There's so much crap that's going on in the world. Like it would be honestly so depressing if you were just in tune with everything bad that was happening in the world. But if you can at least help out in some way, a little bit here or there, or be in tune with it in some regard, so that way you yourself can do something to prevent yourself from doing something like wasting food, right?
Yeah.
Then
And so that's basically my, like, I would like to start this product line and furniture line and just promote a more conscious state of being and a more considered approach to your life. And whether I have products that help you with that or I don't, just that's sort of baked into everything that I do. It's important.
One of the things I wanted to share, because you had literally the most well-written notes for the show that anybody, I believe anybody will ever send in. But I wanted to share one of the quotes, and it's your philosophy for building furniture. You say, every piece of furniture or product I design has a specific purpose for a specific audience or user, and the design starts there. It's crucial for me to understand exactly why a product exists so that I can design the form, feature set, material use, etc., to be aligned with whatever the central goal may be. Obviously, I pride myself in the quality of work I put out, but that has to come second to a genuine understanding of why any given piece is being built in the first place, so that I can ensure every decision made between sketch and delivery is in line with that piece's why. I just thought that outlook was maybe the most well thought out reason for doing something, and like just literally each product having a why seems like that amount of detail into it is the most genuine thing that you could do, and genuine way to put yourself into any kind of project. And I just really enjoyed that.
That's a mindset of a successful person right there. Starting with why.
Starting with why. Yeah, so I typed up those notes and sent them to you, and then the next day or whatever, you send back like the show notes that you're going to follow. And halfway through it, you asked me if I had read the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just funny because I read that 6 months ago or so, and basically halfway through the book just decided that was my Bible. And
it's a great book.
There were so many things in that book that were just put so eloquently and well, and it was already things that I had kind of been thinking on my own, not nearly as well.
It makes you more conscious about it though, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so the way that he put so many things, it just felt like exactly what I needed to read. And like even the design of my new site, like anybody who has read that book will scroll through my homepage and be like, oh, this guy starts with why.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the big comparisons they use in that book is Apple and Creative and the creation of the iPod player.
Yeah.
And the company Creative, a lot of people don't know who they are, but they're a computer company mostly that creates like speakers and sound cards. They beat Apple to the punch by 22 months or something like that, or 11 months or something like that.
A while.
By a while, almost a year or something like that, to the iPod player. And it was called the MP3 player. I actually had one. It was called a Creative Zen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one, and I loved it back in the day. And they advertised it as this 5 gigabyte MP3 player. No one had no idea what that meant, 5 gigabytes, or the mass market didn't know what it meant. And then Apple came up with their iPod, and they're like, well, here's a device that can hold 1,000 songs in your pocket. Which one resonates more with someone? 1,000 songs in your pocket or a 5 gigabyte MP3 player?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a perfect example of a product that it exists for that one purpose, and everything else is just like it's proof of that purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, before we start rolling out, is there anywhere we can find you? Obviously, you mentioned Instagram. Do you have a website at all?
Yeah. So my website is biglowwoodcraft.ca. It's BIGLOW Woodcraft. There's a lot of big L's and big L's. Just going to clarify, I'm neither of those. And I have an Instagram. It's Biglow Woodcraft. And that's it. I recently deleted Facebook and all of my presence there.
So good on you.
Sorry if you want to reach me there.
Yeah,
It seems Instagram is the main way people communicate these days anyways.
Yeah, there's a whole, I don't want to really take up too much time getting into this. Yeah.
Start going down the rabbit hole.
I think I have a post on it somewhere. Maybe you could dig it up or you could ask me.
There you go.
Yeah.
If you want to ask him.
Instagram or biglowwoodcraft.ca, and that's that.
I'll throw the links in the description.
Definitely. I'm trying to think of how we should go out on a. I do have a Brent quote. I do have a Brent quote to share, I think, at the end. But maybe one question we like to ask: the single best piece of advice you'd give someone trying to better their life. What would you put on the Brent billboard?
What a zinger!
You mentioned a couple of things.
Take only what you need.
Oh, ooh! I like.
Take only what you need. Okay.
That seems to fit in line with absolutely everything we've
Simple,
talked about
but
today.
Speaks volumes. Yeah.
Here's the Brent quote that I wanted to share. Everything I've done, this is speaking from your point of view. Everything I've done has led me to where I am in some way, and I can't wait to finally allow that to bloom and mature. So I think I like that as a vision for the future and just where you're headed and projects for the future and websites. So I'm excited to see what's coming next for Brent Biglow.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
I've always known you to have like the most interesting creative mindset of maybe anybody I know. And so it's great to have this conversation and maybe learn a little bit more of what makes you tick and how your mind works. So it's been awesome talking with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
And let's do it. Let's do the websites. So
I'm going to leave that to you.
All right, fine. I gave it to you last time. So go to the meetup.com webpage. We do have a discussion coming up next month. We are all set for volunteering at the Andrew Dunn Walk. Check us out on social media, Be The Change YPS, at Be The Change YPS on both Facebook and Instagram. Yes, we're still on Facebook, but we don't update it all that much. But if you're still kicking it, you can go check us out.
Yeah, it's literally just a curation of whatever's on Instagram or YouTube.
As always, if you have any notes for the show, please email us at b.the.change.yps@gmail.com. I love getting the dots in there.
Also, I created an easier link for people to find just the YouTube channel in general. So I made a short link. It's bit.ly, so bit.ly/BeTheChangeYPS. So in line with all their social media.
And it looks so much more clean and crisp. You'll love the link. Yes. Trying to think of anything else that we may have missed. One of the things we're hoping to do in the near future as well is maybe label parts of the episode so you can tune in to the points that you want to listen to as well. So I'm putting that out there so it forces me to do it.
And you said you were going to do that for this episode, right?
Well, apparently I've backed myself into it now, so perfect. Yes,
that's on you, right?
that is something that we hope to allow so that people can listen to the exact content that speaks to them. But we hope you listen to the whole podcast because there's so many great tidbits in it.
All right. Thanks again, Brent. And to all our listeners, we'll see you next time or talk to you next time.
You'll listen to us next time. Cheers, folks.